So I honestly believe that interview preparation should be done in such a way that the mindset should be not to just crack interview, but to be a really good consultant. Yeah. So we are talking about having, of course, I mean, I always talk about if you want to get into consulting, guys, I mean, we have all heard about this cliche thing, but it really works, right? So any great things are achieved twice, right? Once in the mind first of the achiever, and then in reality. And believe me, in consulting also this happens, right? So you really have to start believing that you are a consultant. You need to act in your real life as well, right? Consulting should go into your DNA, the structured problem solving, the data backed decision making. Yeah. Secondly, build consulting skills, right? So be it problem solving, be it analytically thinking about it, be it top down communication, work on your skills, right? Of course, having said that, also work on the process. So case cracking process today we will briefly go through because without process, right, you will not be able to crack the interview process. Yeah. So in the interview you do anything from 4 to 6 cases, right, in throughout the recruitment process, and the sporadic brilliance or being brilliant in one case doesn't help. You need to be consistently brilliant in multiple cases in order to kind of receive the offer. It still now things are much better now in 2024 as we speak. But I remember when I was interviewing and I was interviewing for McKinsey Frankfurt office, and Germany office is anyways considered to be the most grueling and most purist kind of a consulting office. So we right from 8 a.m. in the morning till 8 p.m. in the evening, right? So I went through the PST, which is 3 cases, 3 written cases, yeah, and after that 6 interviews back to back, up or out, yeah, and every time basically you clear PST, and those who have cleared they will go up in the next round. Then you have first round, second round, I mean first interview, second interview, like that. We had 6 interviews on the same day, yeah, till 7 to 8 p.m. when the partner will come and give you the offer, right? So I remember when I was in my Frankfurt office on that day, there were 27 MBAs from some. I was from HEC. There were people from LBS, INSEAD, Harvard. That day, 26 got rejected. Only I got offer. And then once I was in McKinsey, I saw this process again and again. And one thing that I realized that there is a reason why they do it, because if you can go through this kind of a rigor, right, mentally, physically, right, because believe me, guys, I mean, 3 plus 6, 9 cases. If you do one after another, right, it really, you can only do it if you love case cracking, yeah. Because as we all know, anything that we do that we don't like, right, it consumes a lot of mental energy, yeah. So you really need to like it. You really need to have that uh, energy to do these many number of cases again and again, and be at the top level every time and increase the levels, right? So how do you reach to that level? Is something that I mean, of course, there are a lot. There is a. I always say it's a science plus art, but you can only reach to art if you can perfect the science, right? So the process is the science, right? This is what you need to perfect before you go forward. So with that, let's get into the topic that we wanted to discuss. Yeah. So first of all, let's understand. I mean, what the heck, right? Why are we even talking about case interview, and where does it actually make a difference, right? So, see, this is in general the process that 90% of the case of the consulting companies follow. Yeah. I say 90% because in 10%, depending on the type of intake, the type of company, type of office, yeah, 5%, 10% changes can be here and there, but most of them will follow something like this. Yeah. We'll start off with application screening, where with the CV and cover letter screening happens. Then most of the consulting companies in last 2 3 years have introduced some kind of assessments. Why? Because the number of people applying is very high, and if they start allocating interviewer every time, right, to so many of them, right? Even if they reject a lot of people, the amount of investment from consulting company would be huge. So they have basically techified it, yeah, and hence these assessments, yeah. And then there is a first round interviews where typically there are two interviews. Of course, they are conducted by a junior level of consultants in the pyramid, like senior consultant, manager, etc. And then there is a final round, or they also called partner round, where there are principal or partner level people that they interview. And then if you cross all these hurdles, then you get a consulting offer. As you can see in this process, there are four minimum cases that you have to do. Now, again, BCG has the chatbot case, then add that in the assessment phase. Yeah. McKinsey used to have, as I said, PST means three written cases. That is gone now. McKinsey has a gamified version. Yeah. Some companies have just a GMAT kind of sections. Some of them have psychometrics. So it's different, but basically minimum four cases you have to crack, and hence case cracking in the entire interview process of consulting interviews becomes the biggest elephant in the room, the biggest thing that you need to master. Yeah, so it will consume the most amount of time in the consulting interviews. Okay. Now, so when we are talking about case, what exactly is case? Yeah, so some of you already might know, but for the benefit of others, right? So, case interview is nothing but a hypothetical business situation. Yeah, sometimes it can be a real situation. So, sometimes very expert interviewers, principals, partners, yeah, they're smart enough and they actually can give you problem to solve, which they are currently solving or they had just solved. Yeah, of course, changing the name of the client and all that stuff. Yeah, but mostly it's a hypothetical business situation, and you are supposed to basically solve the problem then and there in the next 30 to 40 minutes in collaboration with the interviewer. Right? Remember, this is a simulation. Yeah, you are playing the consultant, the other person is interviewer is playing a client. Okay. Some of the examples that I have given you, one is the profitability case. Your client is a coffee chain struggling with profitability. How can you help? Right? Or your client is a telecom company contemplating international expansion and they want to know whether it's a good idea. It's a market entry. So like that, there can be product launch, there can be M&A, there can be capacity expansion, so many different pricing, all these different problems. All the strategic problem that a corporation can have can come to you as the case problem. Okay. Now, one beautiful thing, right? I'm in love with case interview because of this particular reason, and this is the reason why case interview, I think, is now not just taken in consulting companies, but also for strategy roles, for product manager role. So I've coached a lot of people for Google interviews and Apple interview, and recently I came to know that Tesla also has started taking case. One of the round is case interview. So a lot of companies are using case interview because it is one of the, I think, the closest that you can go to the real simulation. Okay, so I'll explain what I'm. Just give me a couple of minutes. I'll be very clear in terms of what I just said. Yeah, but before that, let me just give you a little bit of time-wise bifurcation. Right. So generally, case interviews or interviews generally are around 1 hour long. Yeah, McKinsey and BCG both are on the time saving spree for some reason. I don't know. They had brought it down to 55, and now from last year it is 50 minutes, right? So entire interview is 50 minutes. Yeah, and generally it is divided like this, right? 10-12 minutes of fit interviews. Yeah, then case interview where 30-35 minutes are spent, and last few minutes interviewer will of course ask the candidate whether they have any questions for them. Yeah, this is how every case interview happens, right? Now, what I was trying to tell you, right, is that why is it beautiful? Because it is an exact replica of the way consultants work. Exact replica. Yeah. Why do I say so? Now understand, when a case happens, I don't know whether you have seen case interviews in action. I think on the group we had shared a lot of videos over the last 1 year or last 6 months. And if some of you have seen it or they have seen it on YouTube, right, then you will understand when a problem is given, right, unlike any other interview where the problem given by the interviewer is responded by answer, yeah, here we don't actually get into answer, right? In fact, why don't I just go to the next level, right? So the dance between the candidate and interview happens like this, right? So the candidate is given the case statement, whatever profitability problem or whatever problem. Candidate listens to that case, he paraphrases that, right, just to ensure that he has understood the problem correctly, asks a few clarification questions, right, so that he has the relevant information. And once that is done, he takes some time and draws a structure or a framework in terms of how is he going to basically approach this problem. He's not getting into solutioning yet. Huh? He's not jumping to answer. He's first telling them that, okay, for example, just to give you a simplistic example, if you are telling me that your profitability is down, right? Either I'll analyze whether your revenue is down or cost is up. To check whether your revenue is down, I'll check whether your volume or the number of items that you are selling, they have come down or your pricing has come down. So what is he doing? He is not giving them a solution that okay, your profitability is down. Yeah, some problem must be there in your pricing. No, he's not saying directly that. He's first laying out all the possibilities in a structure. Structuring is the heart of the case, okay, and this is the case interview is the toughest part of the interview process, and within case interview, structuring is the toughest part, okay. So we will spend a lot of time on this in subsequent sessions, but I'm just trying to tell you that these guys, the candidate will then put together a approach, yeah. Once that approach is agreed upon, of course, he will ask some questions that, okay, so I need to check the revenue within the revenue volume and then also price. So let's start off with volume. Okay. What data do you have in terms of the number of items of these types that you have sold? Then interviewer will give him some data. Then there will be some analysis that the candidate will do. Some brainstorming might happen. So like that, there is an interaction, and they say they take together, kind of explore where the problem lies. That's the analysis part. Yeah. And after 35, 40 minutes, yeah, the interviewer will say, okay, great. I think thanks for all the analysis. Now, basis of whatever you have done, can you please tell me what's your recommendation? What should we be doing? This is how the case happens. Are you clear? Hello, hello, hello. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, gotcha.
I haven't muted the the group, so you can feel free to unmute yourself. Okay, so I'm coming back on the previous page. What I'm trying to say is, yeah, what we are doing in case interview is an exact replica of what happens in real life consulting. Okay, I'll give you an example. Okay, imagine that there's an automobile company which is really having a profitability problem in real life. Now it's not just case, yeah, and that automobile company CEO knows the McKinsey partner very well, and he calls him to the office, right, and explains that, you know what, we are having this problem. Can you help us? Of course, the partner tries to understand the problem properly, starts off with paraphrasing, right? Just the way you will do it in case interview, right? And then the partner leaves the office, right? Don't forget, after this interaction, it's not that the McKinsey project starts the next day. No, partner comes back. He to the McKinsey office. He will gather his principals, manager, his lieutenants, yeah, and he will tell them, you know what, I met this automobile company CEO, and they are having this problem. Can you put together a proposal? on how we can help them, right? Now all these managers and principals, they get excited and okay, let's put together a proposal, right? Now that 10-15 minute interaction of CEO and partner, that is most of the time is not enough, right? So they will create one, kind of a questionnaire and send it to the CEO team. The CEO team will respond. Now with all that data gathered, yeah, this data gathering is nothing but the clarification phase of casing. The clarification question that you had asked in case interview, you can directly relate to the questionnaire that McKinsey guys are sending to the CEO office, right? Once that data is gathered, they will put together a proposal. This is how we plan to help you. Now that proposal and that approach in the proposal is same as your issue tree or your structure or your framework in the case. Yeah. Now the McKinsey guys will go to the CEO or that company. They will present their proposal, right? And of course, I mean, they are not the only one. Probably BCG Bain would be also competing, right? So if they get a project, then of course the project will start. Yeah. And they will start the analysis, which is nothing but the analysis phase of case. Yeah. Of course, the project has a finite time, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. So whatever after that 2 months are over, there is a steering committee in front of them. We actually present the findings. That steering committee meeting is same as your recommendation phase of the case interview. What am I trying to tell you guys is case interview is a very, very, very good replica of consultant's life. Yeah. And it is aptly used in the recruitment process. One. Secondly, I also tell the candidates that you can actually use case interview practice as a test. If you do not like or if you're not enjoying case cracking, then there is a very high chance that you will not enjoy consulting life. Yeah. So of course, prepare case interviews, and because that is not only going to open doors for consulting opportunities, but as I said, strategy role, investment banking, VC roles also have components of case cracking, and product manager roles. As a skill, no problem. I mean, you should be, of course, mastering it, right? But if you want to get into consulting, then you really, really need to reach it at a very high level, and that is only possible if you enjoy it. Okay? Are you with me, guys?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
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 Good. So I think we went through this. So I'll just quickly skip through. So in terms of the skills, what kind of skills is the firm looking for, right? So we are looking at problem structuring skills. Of course, this is something not only the structuring, guys, is not about just the main structure, the approach, yeah, but also while you are doing the analysis, yeah, are you someone who jumps to the conclusion, or you are someone who takes the data, bifurcates into its pieces, right? That's the kind of structured thinking that we are talking, structured problem structuring that we are talking about, right? So that gets tested. Analytical thinking, of course, right? Are you someone who takes the hypothesis forward using logic and analysis and data, and not by emotions or just by hunch, right? Is everything that you are doing is data backed, logic backed? Yeah, is something that is of course tested and people look for. Synthesizing, right? Synthesizing is an amazing kind of skill, right? So can you, if you have opened up so many analysis, but what's the so what of that analysis? What does it mean for the client? From the data, can you get insights? Can you synthesize things? Right? Structure, synthesize. Yeah. Can you do that? Yeah. is something that is also, of course, is evaluated, and communication, yeah, which has both the abilities, right? You should be able to communicate top down, which is basically answer first, or uh, the what first, and then the details, right? But also storylining while giving the recommendation, while making your point. Yeah? Are you able to storyline it well? Yeah? All these things are evaluated in the interview process. Now we are getting into best practices. Okay. Now, first thing, see, my humble request is here: learn case cracking before you start practicing. A lot of people, yeah, get into case cracking by directly doing mock interviews with people. Yeah, they feel we can learn on the job, right? So rather than, so as I said, case has so many components, right? There is a clarification, how to do, in fact, in paraphrasing, right, needs some techniques: clarification, structuring, quantitative analysis, qualitative analysis, recommendation. All these pieces, there are some strategies, there are some processes to go through that. Yeah. Now, instead of doing that, if you say, okay, let me directly pick up a case book and try and solve case interviews with my friend, yeah, and with that I will, kind of pick it up, yeah, that is something that is in the long run going to be detrimental, because then you are not, it's like athlete, right? So athletes don't directly start running in the Olympics, right? So they do small races, they do their muscle strengthening, mental strengthening, all that stuff, yeah, so that they can actually run for the Olympics. Similarly, you need to master the components, master the skills, and then apply it in the casing. Yeah. So first learn the process, learn the technique. Okay. And then you go and practice. If you directly practice, a lot of time you take, wrong messages or wrong learnings, right? Because if you are directly doing a case and someone gives a feedback that it shouldn't have been this way, but your structure has been this way. Now, because you don't know the basics, what you end up then directly taking as that person's statement at a face value. Okay, which means if there's a market entry case, this is the framework to be used, rather than thinking about, okay, this is the way it is supposed to be done, this is the science behind it, and in that science I fell short because I did this, something like this. So because of, so to, for you to analyze that, for you to really progress, yeah, you need to learn how to do it before you get into practicing part. Case reading, YouTube watching the case, yeah, is not case practice. Okay, how many ever cases you read, how many ever case you watch on the YouTube, yeah, that is just a familiarity part, right? It is like saying that, okay, I'm watching on MasterChef, I'm watching, I don't know, Gordon Ramsay or whoever, right? To how to do pasta or how to do pizza or something like that. And just by watching it 100 times, how the best 50 pizza chefs do pizza, I'll be able to do it. No, that's not the case. I will have to learn, right, how to knead the dough, how, what are the different ingredients, and probably I need to fail 50 times before my 51st pizza will have some kind of shape, and then probably 100 pizza will have some kind of taste as well, right? So don't waste time. And what happens now, YouTube, or any case study that you will take, right? These are not like, these are not shorts, 1 minute videos. Yeah. If you are watching YouTube video of case cracking, then you are literally watching it for 1 hour, literally, which is a lot of time that you are unnecessarily wasting, right? Rather than that, you might find a partner and practice it. Okay. Okay. Diversify. Now, this is also very critical. And I'll tell you, because a lot of people ask me that, if I'm from telecom industry, does that mean I'll only get telecom cases? If this company is McKinsey is basically hiring me or interviewing me for operations practice, does it mean there are only operations cases? That's not the case. Yeah, whenever you are getting interviewed, the cases can come from any industry, any functional area, any geography. Yeah, you need, and that's fair only because when we are testing candidates, we are testing them on their first principle thinking, not their knowledge that they have gathered, right? So even while practicing, don't just do cases of one type just because you like it or just because you don't like it, right? Try different industries, try different functions, try different topics, yeah, so that you get a diversity. Not just that, in fact, I would say also don't only do case with one partner, change partners, because with time, no, you can predict the response of the partner, right? And not necessary that you will get this kind of a partner, right? So your partner might be very kind person, but you might get a nasty interviewer, or your partner can be nasty and hence you also become aggressive, but you might get a very gentle interviewer. Or I always talk about this with my clients that I'm talking in an Indian English accent, yeah, and my pace of English is probably moderate even by the Indian standard. Yeah. But for example, if you are interviewing for a Dubai office, then you might have a super fast train like speaking Australian or a New Zealand guy consultant, or you might have somebody who is an Italian or German with a very different accent, or you might get an Arab to interview you, right? And it's a pretty human process, right? So imagine suddenly the problem statements and the wordings and pronunciations that you had never heard about, yeah, getting thrown at you, and you are under tremendous pressure to convert this interview. So already try and see whether you can have variety even in practice partners. The more variety you will have, the lesser the number of cases you will need to reach a mastery stage. Okay. The next one is work in triad. So, yeah, I spoke about partner and which means pair, but ideally, if everything goes right, right, or everything is possible, and if it is possible, no, guys, work in triad. That is even more efficient. Yeah. So I've just pulled up one slide just to show you how it typically should work, right? So if you work in triad, then what happens? No, there is somebody who is an interviewer, there is somebody who is cracking the case, and the third one is observer. Yeah, and that observer then can also give you feedback, and a lot of time observer's feedback is so much better because don't forget, unlike the normal interview where interviewer has set questions to ask, in case interview, the interviewer also needs to think because he also needs to give intelligent response. And while he is doing that, it's possible that he actually might not notice a certain mistake that you have done. But an observer will catch that. And of course, triad means, of course, you can have that rotation, right? Then observer become consultant, interviewer, and interviewer become candidate, and like that. Yeah. If possible, work in triad, it is much more efficient. Yeah. A lot of people, I mean, there used to be a thumb rule that if you want to get, before getting into McKinsey interview, you should have done 100 cases. And still a lot of people ask me, do you really have to do 100 cases? And I always tell them it's not about a number. It's not about 100 or 50. Yeah. It's a lot about how you are doing the cases that you are doing. If you are doing them systematically, logging the feedback, and I'm going to talk about feedback separately as well, right? So if you are doing it very systematically, you can also reach a mastery stage with less number of cases. Okay. Yeah, I think that this is the last point, and this again ties back to the previous point. Invest significant time in feedback, reflection. Again, the same thing. If you do these things very nicely, then you will not need too many cases to be done. Yeah, I always talk about whenever you are having a case practice, and if you are going to have, let's say, 1 hour coaching call with me, or any of your peer coaching is going to happen, for that 1 hour you block 2 hour on your calendar. Yeah, why? Because once your interview or that 1 hour coaching is done, don't get up, then and there document your performance. What did you do well? What was the feedback? What is it that could have been improved? To improve that, what is your plan of action? New things that you have learned. Did you learn that, okay, in an aeronautical case, in a market entry, this is the sub branch that can be added? Or, okay, in this industry, fixed cost is more important than variable cost. Those insights, domain knowledge insight that you have extracted of that practice, before you forget them, jot down them. So invest that half an hour to quickly jot down and create a log. And next time when you are going to do a coaching, the half an hour before you start the coaching, you go through your logs. This helps you to not repeat the mistakes. Yeah. So with minimum number of coaching sessions or peer coaching sessions, yeah, you can actually reach a huge mastery. Yeah. Yeah. So see, these are the two evaluation sheets, right? And you can take a screenshot. I'm happy to, kind of, if you do that, yeah. So this is something that I feel when you are working in a triad or working with pair, you can use it for your internal purpose, right? Because this is a phase-wise analysis. Means whenever an interviewer or observer is observing, yeah, unless he is also an ex-consultant, right, or a coach, yeah, he will not be able to quickly, kind of think about the impact of that mistake. But chronologically, as you go from paraphrasing to clarification, clarification to structuring, structure into analysis, you can jot down the mistakes, right, chronologically. So this is a very simple form of jotting down what you did well and what you did not do well. Yeah. But ultimately, from a company perspective, yeah, the sheet that is used is something like this. Now here, this is difficult to fill up. Yeah, this is basically you need to fill up after the entire interview is done, because analytical thinking is needed in structuring as well and analysis as well. Math can come two times, or math might not come. Communication needs to be observed throughout the case. Probing or taking the hypothesis forward needs to be happen throughout the case. So this basically I've created this using the MBB evaluation criteria. So this is what exactly these MBB guys use. Yeah, the words can be different. Of course, every company has different words uh, or different terms for a few things. Yeah, but this is exactly what is used, and I'm happy if you can also use this. Yeah, to jot down, to start with this one, and once you are probably debriefing, yeah, with each other, you can also fill up this. Yeah, every time you are practicing, yeah, please practice with this kind of a rigor, okay, so that you ensure that you get the result that you want with a minimum number of practice sessions. Okay.
Thanks, Gaurav. I wanted to check in specifically on the slide for interview performance evaluation.
Uh-huh.
The idea here there is to rate the candidates out of a score of the slide after this one. Yeah.
Mm.
The idea is to rate the candidates out of a score of 10 or 5
Mm.
probably for all of these and then
Absolutely.
cumulatively look at it. So, I mean,
It is not
obviously,
cumulative, by the way.
oh,
It
okay, okay.
is so sometimes, for example, on structuring, if you are one, then it is
Yeah,
not average. If
yeah,
structuring you are one or zero, then you are out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's why the final recommendation, I think that there's some the words are getting overlapped, but that is final recommendation, yes or no, and comments. To be very honest, ultimately when we gather the sheets or whenever there is a uh, when a decision needs to be taken whether the candidate needs to be moved to the next round or not, what we
Mm,
care about is the box at the bottom.
understood. So obviously, at the start of someone's case prep, they would not be like so good in structuring or
At
in,
the start, you don't use it. You use this one.
understood. And
Okay.
probably once you get comfortable, then
Ah. See, this
yeah.
evaluation sheet is also for you to also think about what all things get noticed, no, by interviewer. Use
Mm-hmm.
it right now as a self-reflection sheet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then as you go a little bit at intermediate level, expert level, you can of course use this as an evaluation as well. See, for this to be prepared or filled up properly, no, the interviewer also needs to be a
Mm-hmm.
little bit at the expert level. Any
Mm-hmm.
uh, if it is just a peer who is helping you out reading the answer from the case book, then might not. I mean, it's not fair
Mm-hmm.
that person to give you something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Understood, Gaurav. Thanks. Thanks.
Thanks, Sumit. If you're done with the question, take the hands down. Okay, okay, great. Srishti?
Yes, sir. So, firstly, thank you for such an informative session. And the question that I have is that you mentioned that watching a case on YouTube videos or maybe like reading the case studies from whichever from Harvard or wherever, it's not actually practicing case. And then later also you mentioned that if we are, you shouldn't directly jump onto practicing cases with case partners. So, how should one go about it when they are starting out? What practical approaches can one have? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one is you can go with something like your skill-wise drills, right? So there are a lot of websites that provide math drills, structuring drills, etc. Getting the theory done. Yeah. Or of course, I mean, you can also approach us. So coaches are there for the same thing, right? To get the foundation done. So either you can go and get the foundation done with coaches, or you can get the individual skills done through some of the skill drills.
All right, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, Vidushi.
Yeah, very good evening, sir. First of all, thanks a lot for this insightful session. So just one question that I have is when we practice with our buddy, so how do we really get to know if we are what we are practicing is really up to the mark?
I know that's a big problem, and I think just last week I shared that comparison that I had created analysis on type of case partners and pros and cons, right? So if you have your own batchmate, or if you are using your granny or somebody dog to partner, kind of help you out, you would not expect then. So what you can expect is whatever written in the case printout or the case book, at least they should be able to tell you whether you are whether you I mean they should be able to take you from one step to another of the case. Beyond that, it is not expected, right? Because see, what happens is, understand this, right? As the case moves at every stage, there are multiple possibilities. Now, case book, let's say, for example, in a case book, somebody takes a route of, let me first look at costs. But you took a route of, in the profitability case, you took a route of taking revenue first. If it is my granny who is there sitting on the other side as an interviewer, she'll say you are wrong. But you might not be wrong, right? A good interviewer say, okay, why revenue? And if your answer is understandable, convincing, then yes, he can actually give you data from on the revenue side, right? So generally, what we suggest people is that when you are in the practice phase of the interview, right? So foundation, practice, and polishing. Practice phase of the interview, the ratio that any coach will recommend you is 5:1. In the sense, you do 5 sessions with peer and one with a coach, so that there is someone who is ensuring that your trajectory is going up, right? Someone who is ensuring that you are not picking up wrong conclusions or wrong habits. We get a lot of candidates who though do very good job in foundation, when they vanish for a month and only do practice with their MBA classmates, they end up picking up some bad habits just because their other friends are doing it like that. Yeah. So there has to be a quality intervention for sure. There's no other way.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Hi, Gaurav. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Right. So, Gaurav, I wanted to know more about the first point of the best practices, which was learning before practicing. So, you said that it's important to master these various components and learn them before you actually sort of start casing. So, I have three follow-up questions, sort of to know and dig deep into this, right? So, my
You
first
ask
question is.
one so that everyone else will get a chance to also ask questions.
Okay, so
Start
basically,
by one.
I wanted to do just wanted to touch upon sources, how to internalize these concepts, and how do you gauge that you've learned them. These are the three.
Okay, so I think the sources would be the case preparation platforms and website, including of course our Being Consultant website. And how do you test it? So that's where I think you need to have one session with an expert, be it your friend who is already working in consulting or a coach, so that kind of that you have reached at least some stage. There has to be some kind of quality check evaluation. Otherwise, it's very difficult for you to self-judge that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Hey Gaurav, I think
Yeah.
one of the questions was Abhimanyu, the same question I had, and the second question was about triad. Could you detail a bit about the triad slide that you mentioned?
What exactly you would like to know under this triad?
So how do we put it under practice? How do we put it into practice?
So basically, for triad to work, right, you need to have 3 people, right? So just a minute. Let me just something is bothering me. Let me just switch it off. Yeah. So who asked this question? Anish?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you need to have 3 people working together, and you need to have an agreement that, okay, let's say, for example, every alternate day, if you are meeting that, then one day when we meet, yeah, Anish is going to be the case interviewer. Let's say Hani is going to be a candidate, and let's say uh, Drashti is going to be the observer, right? And then you do the case. Then the feedback loop goes the way that diagram showed, right? You first talk about how did it go, right, to you for yourself, yeah. Then of course you get a feedback from the interviewer that according to the interviewer how the performance was, and then ultimately the observer will also give a feedback, yeah, in terms of okay, I felt this should have been better and all that stuff. Yeah, so basically you will get a feedback from 2 people. As I said, why is this important is in case cracking, interviewer also actually mentally engages a lot, right? Because there's no one right answer, right? So when you give an answer, the interviewer needs to think whether should I say this is right and hence go forward, or whether I should kind of push that person back. What? So when interviewer is not complete in the observation and evaluation mode, they are, but not as much as a normal company interview where I asked you what is the formula for EBITDA, or what is the, I don't know, formula for break even. Yeah. Then when I am expecting an answer, I know whether you are right or wrong because I am relaxed. I know the comparison criteria. If it matches with that, it's black and white. Yes or no. In case that's not the case, so the interviewer's role is very important. And as a result of that, if you add an observer, yeah, then nothing falls through the crack. Small thing the observer can pick up, right? And start talking about. Now, as you go into the second round and a little bit advanced preparation, then your body language, intonation, right? All these things can also start mattering, whether you are really top-down communicator or not. And did you miss out on certain things?
Got it. Got it. Very clear. Thank you.
Yeah, Han, please.
May I
Yeah, please. Go
question
ahead.
Mr. Gaurav? Okay. Example, if we receive a study case or business case about qualitative or quantitative analysis, but the resource is very not completed, so how we deal with it?
Resource means what? You are talking about the data from the interviewer?
Yes, the data for our interview because not clear. So how we can face with it and how we answer to do it. Thank you.
We are getting into a little bit details of how part, but I'll quickly, briefly answer, though this is not a scope of today's discussion. See, generally in case interview, yeah, there are, I mean, most of the time you don't have enough data. Yeah, the data is always lacking, right? There's something which is not there, etc. And that is exactly what a good candidate needs to spot, right? And then we need to have a discussion with the interviewer that, okay, you have given me this, for example, you have given me this volume data, but I don't have a price point, so I'm not able to calculate revenue, right? Remember, again, consulting is collaborative problem solving. Yeah, you and the interviewer needs to together take this forward. Yeah, so questioning and giving and kind of asking for data. Yeah, an interviewer might not, I mean, interviewer might say, no, I don't have it. Can you assume it? Then probably you need to take a assumptions. That's exactly is what case cracking it is. Yeah, I always say 2 plus 2 is not a decision. 2 plus 2 is a calculation, right? The moment there is a terminology decision, which means there is either too much data or too less data. If there is a sufficient data, then no company will need a consultant. Then they can solve the problem themselves, right? Consultants by default get into ambiguous problem solving. That's why they get paid so much, and that's why it is such a challenging industry to work in. Data ambiguity and people ambiguity. These are the two ambiguities that consultants have to face every day in their career. Consultants do not solve rocket science problem. We don't solve problems which are fundamentally subject-wise, depth-wise, they are tough. There are researchers, there are astronauts who are, and all the people are doing that. Yeah, that's not what consultants do. Consultants solve business problem where there's a data deficiency, where 10 stakeholders are looking in 10 different directions, nobody's agreeing with each other, right? Where there are 100 people to be convinced. So these are the kind of problems we solve, and case cracking is a ground, in fact, to practice it at least at small 1%. Yeah.